space. I need some time to feel free and enjoy.
What's going on, guys? How are you all doing? I hope you guys are all doing well. Obviously, being confined to the confines of your own home and the four walls that you obviously are experiencing, just like the rest of us. This is for your viewing entertainment purposes only, for special occasions, and obviously it's just for emergencies only. But anyway, what we have got for you today is ranking the Premier League greatest midfielders in terms of legend, very underrated, and obviously anything in between. So all the Premier League legends, the best of all time, as I say, and the very underrated, and everything in between. The going through all the pictures the pictures of the players that you see on the screen right now, and ranking them from what I believe where they deserve to be. There will be some obvious ones, and I will pick the obvious ones out in terms of doing them before the rest of them, and then we'll see what we're left with. Right now, the first one I am going to start with is obviously going from left to right, going from Roy Keane as one of the best of all time, because the fear factor and because of everything in between, because of the toughness, the fear that he would instill into the opponent even before the game's even kicked off, and the technical ability that he possessed. Absolutely phenomenal player. Goal scoring record wasn't all that great, but again, he wasn't in the team to do so. Still popped up with the odd goal here and there. And yeah, just a general of the midfield, absolute incredible player and absolute terrifying to play against, to be quite honest. Not that obviously I ever played against him, but he was an absolute pain in the backside. To be quite honest, as you might have spotted, there's quite a few really strange ones on here in terms of personnel, because a lot of it will be, like the legend tier 2, legend tier 3 will be almost too early to say. So obviously, if that's what they will be labelled as, too early to say for the two tiers, the legend 1 will just be best of all time, and the legend 1 tier will be elite, I guess. That's the best way to cover it. Without Roy Keane, there wouldn't be no Patrick Vieira, and the rivalry would be non-existent. So I've obviously gone with Patrick Vieira as one of the best of all time, because not only was he one of the best of all time, he deserves to rightfully be there next to Roy Keane, because ironically they would be my centre mid even pairing if I had to pick a Premier League best 11, which I may do if you want that video to come out. I've got videos planned for the rest of the week, but if you want that video, leave a like on the video as well. But yeah, moving on, obviously, from Vieira, can't really disagree with that so far. Let me know what you think of the video as it progresses. Lampard and Gerrard are going to be next. So obviously, touching on Lampard, I don't believe he was the best of all time, because it's a different era of football, and obviously the different era of football meant the different competitive levels. Not saying it's not as competitive now or as when Lampard was playing in at Chelsea. It's just the fact that it was so different. The Premier League level now is not as good as it once was, and even not as good as it once was while Lampard and Gerrard were still playing. So, and ironically now, obviously they're both managers, so it's kind of, they've almost come full circle. But in terms of ability, those three that I've picked so far are absolutely up there with the best in the world. Obviously, given in their heyday, should we say? I guess, I said Lampard and Gerrard. So Gerrard, you can't have Lampard without Gerrard. I know a lot of people said, they couldn't play together. I beg to differ. I think they actually complemented each other's games relatively well. I think they're almost not polar opposites. They have the same traits, attributes, and what they bring to the team, but it's like almost opposites attract. And it's kind of, they were a compelling argument to, obviously, the argument rages on in terms of who was better, and I believe I can't split them myself, so don't even ask me. I don't want to comment saying how do you split them, because I don't know. Honestly have no idea how to split Lampard and Gerrard together. I mean, if I had to, off the top of my head right now, go, and if someone was asking me, I'd go with now I said Lampard, I'd go with Lampard because of the sheer goals that he would get, and that alone is enough to obviously be put in to any team, to be quite honest. Another best of all time, my personal favourite from Chelsea again, was Claude Makelele. Made the game look irrelevant almost. It made the game look just absolutely ridiculously easy, and that's to be quite honest, that's a massive trait of any good midfielder, any best of all time or legend tier 1, whatever, or elite midfielder would make the game, simplify the game and play to your level, play to your kind of pace. Don't feel like you've got to run mad around the pitch. Just when you get the ball, play to your level and just play to your standard, play to your pace, and just take the game and dictate the game from your own mind as such. So put your visions out to into the game basically, and the same could be said for perhaps not so much predecessor, but he's kind of successor, I guess. He was most known for, I guess, his time at Arsenal, and that's what I choose to remember him on and for obviously because he did go to Chelsea eventually, albeit perhaps begrudgingly, because I genuinely believe he wanted to come back to Arsenal, and Arsenal didn't have the money at the time, or whatever it may be. If anyone does actually know, just leave it in the comments, obviously during the conversation and whatnot. To be quite honest, I mean, a lot of there will be a lot of controversy surrounding some of the picks that I put in. I mean, Luka Modric, as you see, I've just added Modric into tier 2 at the moment. Again, I'm not entirely sure. I might just leave the tiers as they are, but I put Modric into legend tier 2 because I think he played in a different era of football to majority of apart from Fabregas. Really, he played in an era of football where it was becoming less physical, and you were given a lot more protection. I'm not saying players get a lot more protection. I'm just saying the referee is a lot more he was less lenient back in like the days of Vieira and even Makelele, and obviously Vieira and Keane. That being said, obviously, I mean, you can't really go anywhere else. When mentioning Paul Scholes, again, he wasn't my type of midfielder, but again, you can't discredit him. You can't do him dirty like that. He's got to be in the legend tier 1, I think, along with some very, very good company. I mean, if that was a midfield 4, I don't see many losses on the team record. But sticking with sort of Arsenal, I mean, Santi Cazorla, I think he's probably fairly, I was going to put him in legend tier 1, but I think he's fairly similar to Modric. Played in that era of football where football was less physical and the referees were a lot more tight with the cards and a lot more, they were a lot more less lenient as such. So they were a lot more on you, and I think that, that being said, it's a fair reflection upon putting Cazorla next to Modric. I mean, if those two ever played together, that would be an incredible centre-mid partnership. I say if they ever did, obviously, probably very unlikely now. Nemanja Matic, again, never won that, even at Chelsea, never really one that I resonated with. Didn't really, just don't like the style of play as such, and obviously I know he's in the team to do a very boring job, but the style of play in terms of what he brings to the side was very boring from my kind of eyes. The first of the very underrated, I believe, I mean, a lot of people will probably disagree with this, but I believe Fernandinho is very, very underrated in terms of what he brings to the side. He can play in at centre-back, he can play at holding midfielder, and he can play just a general midfielder role, sort of like a box-to-box midfielder. And I think, that inner side is very, very underrated. And I think the fact that he can do all three means he's very versatile. And I think that's just a very a very scarce, few and far between attribute to have in a footballer, especially a midfielder. And again, because of the whole sort of maybe Cazorla Modric situation, Mata came into football when football was not on the decline, but on the less physical. It was getting ever and ever less physical, more and more as the seasons seemed to go on, and it's only more recently it's become a lot more kind of almost done full circle and gone, back to how it was. So for that matter, I don't even have to try. He deserves, I think, legend tier 3, along with Matic. Again, both of them never really liked the style of play. Decent footballers enough, but they're, for me, they're a no-go. Second, they're very underrated. I think a lot of people would actually agree with this. I believe this is James Milner. I think James Milner has got a lot in his arsenal in terms of positions that he can play, positions that he can cover all over the pitch. He can play right wing, left back, I guess right back as well, and centre back. I mean, there's not much the guy can't he can't do, to be quite honest. And I think that reflected upon and has reflected upon the teams that he's played for. Because a lot of teams do look for versatility, and I think him being able to provide that is a massive feather in his cap. Xavi Alonso, obviously another Liverpool legend, along with Steven Gerrard, just very much similar to Steven Gerrard, but less of the attacking sort of threat. The goals never really came from, they more or less come from the boot of him in terms of the assists. And some of the goals he has scored, I mean, obviously, namely the goal from in his own half, I was going to say he's done it twice. He's done it against Luton and also Newcastle. And Luton away, Newcastle at Anfield. And just, that was incredible to watch. That that goal, yes, the goalkeeper did slip, whatever, but, it is what it is. Michael Carrick, I think, again, I never really, it's very much similar. I know I put a trio of Man United midfielders in legend tier 3, but they're all in there for the same reason. Never really resonated with the type of player they are, and I just never really rated them all that much. Shoot me, or bite me, if that's what you're into. Philip Coutinho, I mean, his time at Liverpool was absolutely ridiculous. He was one of the best in the Premier League for a comfortable 2.5 years, easily. I think that, no one can really disagree with that. I think that's a fair shout, fair reflection upon obviously his stats throughout those years. And along with the likes of Eden Hazard, I mean, Hazard don't find himself here because he's not really a midfielder as such, or a classic midfielder as such. But along with Eden Hazard, those couple of seasons that I was talking about Coutinho, very, very similar, in stats, and obviously the type of player he is very similar, an integral part to their respective clubs. So that's why, and also playing in a less physical sort of, even though it still is physical, but it's a less physical league now, obviously, but relatively recently coming full circle and more or less going back to a little bit of the more physical, the physical days. So yeah, the remaining 7, I mean, fantastic 7 or whatever. Mesut Ozil, I believe, again, for much like Cazorla, played in the same team sometimes, and or a similar team, and for the similar teams he's played before, also as well. His Arsenal career, as he's legendary without doubt, but again, he's not like in the legends of Vieira, Makelele, Fabregas, Gerrard, Lampard. You wouldn't resonate as good as Mesut is, which, believe me, obviously you only have to watch him play football to realise just how good he is. Again, it's just all depends on what you expect from a midfielder. He's legendary at what he does, so I think that sums him up. That's it. Christian Eriksen, again, because he's obviously, it's like these modern day footballers that don't really know they're born in terms of the league that they're playing in. It's just I feel Christian Eriksen never really excelled, because he was at perhaps Spurs at a good time, but he was always playing second fiddle. He never really rose to the potential that he could possibly have, made. Another one of the underrated ones, again, it's probably going to cause controversy. Yaya Toure, I believe Toure was underrated heavily, and I think the last four all kind of bridge around the 1 and 2 mark generally. I mean, Kante can go in at number 2, because I think in terms of obviously the style of play and the league that he's playing in and the type of league that it is just, he's a good player. That's it. I think that, he's not exceptional. He had been. He's not of late, but I mean, he's not in the kind of David Silva as you see him. I've just mentioned and moved him into the same tier as Kante. That's no discredit to David Silva, and that's no discredit to N'Golo Kante. But I think we can all agree, borderline, he's almost one of the best of all time that we've seen in the Premier League. Kevin De Bruyne, KDB, absolutely fantastic, just absolutely amazing. And it's no surprise that Paul Pogba finds himself in legend tier 3, completing a midfield 4 of Manchester United midfielders. But anyway, that's it for the video. It's slightly longer, slightly overrun a little bit, but I hope you appreciate it. Obviously, all the work that I've been putting in recently for you guys to have 2 videos per day from tomorrow until the following Sunday, and then videos will stop for a little while until I feel ready and able to come back. I'm going to be taking a break and just kind of, looking after my family, and obviously looking after such and such, looking after myself more so than anything, and obviously just not having the pressure of having to upload. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you are new around here, I'd incredibly appreciate it if you subscribed. Enjoy your morning, enjoy your day, enjoy your night, and enjoy tomorrow. Peace.